Okay, so now we have all of our ribbon on, and now we're going to do what we call finishing off the back. And again, I'm not going to worry about my ribbon yet because I'm flipping it over and working on the back side. So I intentionally left this one so I could show you what I was trying to explain earlier, where I would like, it does better when it crosses over 2 bars. So you see how this purple is rolling to the back of your wreath. And, you know, obviously it's not the end of the world, but we kind of want everything facing forward. So this is why I don't over tighten my twist ties, because it's easier to undo them if they're only done a couple times. So if you notice when I pull this to the inside, see how it rolls that to the front? And that's what you're wanting. So now I'll twist off back here like this. And so now that helps push that to the front. So at this point, you can correct any of those that are kind of rolled out. That's really the only one I see on this particular wreath. So I'm going to twist off. Now, at this stage, this is when, if you have a wire cutters and needle nose pliers, they come in handy. However, it is not, you know, you can do it without, you can do it with your fingers, but I do like to kind of cut off and trim down my pipe cleaners. So the wire cutters I will use just to trim off a portion of it. And then I'll take my needle nose and just grab my end and roll it down. And all I'm doing is, since the pipe cleaners have a little bit of a wire edge, I don't want to scratch the surface of what I'm putting my wreath on. If you don't have those tools, like I said, it's not a big deal. You can certainly do it manually with your fingers and just roll down like that. I do find that doing enough of these, my hands dry out. And so I do like to use the tools. So I'm going to go around the wreath and basically just tuck in all the wire ends. And then we'll flip it over and work on adding the sign. Okay, so now we've got all the wires turned off, or trimmed up and turned down. Now we're going to come back to the front. So now you can kind of start to, you know, just check placement of ribbon. Again, we're still going to squish it a little bit because we're going to end up adding our sign. But while you're kind of looking at your ribbon placement, this might be a good time to be figuring out which way you want to be, up or down. The nice thing with this wreath and the ribbon that's used is that it all doesn't have a particular direction. So you probably want to lay your sign on there, kind of see where you want it. And I kind of want it so that, you know, I had it here and the pink was so close to that pink, it kind of might blend in too much. So I might just try twisting it just to see. And I think I like that placement there, with the yellows behind that and purples. So this particular sign is very light. So you don't have to worry about really cranking it down. And in fact, you're probably not going to be able to crank it crossbar down, but the nice thing is it's not going to sag because of weight. So what we're going to want to do is, if you notice, there are fishing line on each end, and I'm going to work on one end at a time. So I'm going to, you know, kind of pick my way. I do want to make sure that if there's any mesh that I want pulled out, I do that now, because that will help two things. One, let the sign kind of sit into your wreath. If you prefer it to sit up, that's your choice. But the other thing is, if you are to pull out the mesh after you've attached the sign, there is going to be then some laxity in that, and it might slip a little. So I'm kind of just, you know, tweaking like that. So I kind of like the way this is kind of sitting in there. And I'll work on that side when I get there. So I'm going to take my fishing line, and I'm going to kind of work it down between this pink and purple to the back side of my wreath and pull it through. Again, you can keep kind of changing it as you see, and just, you know, if you want your ribbons to be out, you can go ahead and pull them. There we go. So now I'm going to take this one, I'm going to kind of come down in between these purples here, which is actually two. And work it to the back side. Okay. So I know it's hard to see the fishing line on the videos just because it's clear, and it's also hard for me to even find it sometimes. Okay. So now I need to find the other one that I pulled to the back side. It's not being cooperative today. Okay. So in my left hand, I have the two back sides of that fishing line. Again, I'm going to kind of make sure it's kind of seating somewhat where I want it. While I've got a little bit of tension on that, I'm going to flip it over. And the table itself will help me kind of keep it in place, but we can check it one more time. Now, it is ideal because if I was to tie off right here, this fishing line can slip up and down these sides. So it is ideal to kind of utilize these crossbars when you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fishing line and I'm going to wrap it around this upper one like that. And then I'm going to take this bottom one and wrap it around this one. Then I'm going to pick one of them to bring the other two. So I'm going to bring this guy up to this one. And I'm going to go down and around. That way, again, when I'm tying this off, it's tying to a crossbar. It's not going to slip along this channel here. So with fishing line, unless you're proficient at throwing square knots, it can slip. So you want to kind of throw a couple throws. You might do two, flip it over. Just double check to make sure the tension is where you want it, which looks good to me. I'm going to come back and do at least two more throws. Now, if you want to make sure it's really secure, you could wrap it around a crossbar one side and do a few more. That's up to you. And then you can use your scissors to trim off the extra fishing line. And then we'll move to the other side. So scissors are useful for that. Okay, so I'm gonna flip it back to my front and I'm gonna work on this side. So I'm gonna pull these out. So I've got that one there and this one over here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come down between this yellow and blue or turquoise and pull that to the back, maybe. Okay. And then And in between this purple and pink with the upper. All right, so I have the two to the back side. Now again, you don't want to pull too much because you can kind of see it does set that, springs that up. No pun intended. So I don't want to pull too hard, but I do want to have it so it sits on there. So that's good. So I'm going to come back to the back side. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to utilize my crossbars that are in close proximity. So I'm going to come down around this one. Okay, wrap it around that one. So again, I need to pick one to go to. So I'm going to go to the upper. It doesn't matter if you go to the upper or the lower. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie this one off. All right, and I'll trim those. Now, you can go ahead and, pull out any ribbon that you feel is being hidden that you want to be seen, things like that. And kind of finesse, what we call finesse the wreath. You'll probably do this again once you have it up on the door or your wall, because you might get it up there and say, hey, I kind of like this ribbon. This one's not showing the way it's positioned. So you can hang your wreath using the crossbar with a wreath hanger, or in your kit you will have a little wire like this. I usually use 3M hooks to hang my wreaths. I do them on the backs of doors, I do them on the front door, and they tend to work really well. So what I do is I kind of find the center, and I'll add this using, again, you can do this using your fingers, but the needle nose pliers do make it a little easier to wrap around your bar. And this will be up to you if you want to do this. All right. There we go. And your wreath is all complete. I hope you enjoyed this and this was easy to follow along. I hope that if this is your first time, that you will come back and join me for another, as I enjoy creating new wreaths and teaching you how to do them. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you soon, or join me for a video soon.